So, what are we doing with Egyptian hieroglyphs in an Australian park?
Paul, I can't really tell you at this stage. I've been aware of their existence for a number of years. Finding their actual location took some time, but as you can see, the inaccessible spot that they're in precludes anybody doing this as a hobby horse one afternoon. There's obviously a lot of work and effort gone into it. The knowledge of hieroglyphs has been quite astounding. I can't really believe that somebody's just done this as a prank, because as I mentioned, the inaccessibility, they would have had to drag and carry and tote equipment to get it in here to do this. I feel that if they wanted to do it for a prank, they would have put it in a position that would have been readily available to people to see in passing.
Right. And with different people you've shown it to and different experts, you've been able to glean some idea of what it means?
Gradually we're building up a picture. We've had all sorts of people in here that involve themselves in the esoteric sciences, the hard sciences of Egyptology. We're gradually building up a picture of what it is. I really don't want to go into it at this stage because there's still a lot of what-ifs involved in it. But there's obviously some type of prophecy. With further down the wall and to the southern end, it seems to go into some type of a code. We've actually got somebody working on this code at the moment, and hopefully in the not too distant future, I'm talking about weeks now, that we'll have a glimmer of information coming from that as well.
And just offhand, what sort of speculations have you come across about it? Being prophecies and so on, what speculations have people made?
Well, the early part of it here, this is obviously the start. You can start reading from this angle here. Right. It relates to information about a prophecy, about coming of time. It talks about flood, it talks about blood, it talks about mass destruction, it talks about death. Exciting, isn't it? Somebody or something with a far greater knowledge than I would hope to have has been here and done this. The actual carvings are so beautifully perfected. That alone in itself, you'd have to have the finest tools and equipment and knowledge to carve the sandstone like that. Some of the intricacies of it to stop the granular structure, sandstone collapsing in on itself. You'd have to have a thorough knowledge of what you were doing just to achieve that alone.
As well as a thorough knowledge of the geoglyphs themselves.
Like I mentioned before, to get some of these carvings in the position they had, you would have had to have, of course, providing you were using the normal methods that we know of, you would have had to have ladders and trestles and all sorts of things to get in there. You'll note that the glyphs themselves are all perfectly matched in size and shapes. They're not higgledy-piggledy, they're not unbalanced. The lines are perfect.
And does it read right to left or left to right?
Well, Egyptology glyphs cover an area of some 5,000 years, which is a huge span in time. During that time, they change from right to left, left to right. The actual size and the figures actually changed as well. So in places it reads from left to right, it reads from up to down and right to left. And so it is a real complete mystery, really. I'm fortunate enough to have elders that transcend different cultures, although they're Aboriginal. They have a very thorough knowledge of Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, Egyptology and science. So it makes a very interesting conversation when you sit with them and talk.
And what was their reaction to these glyphs?
Pretty ho-ho sort of thing. Oh yeah, of course they're here. You know, what do you expect? They say that they're clever people, men and women of ages gone by, had contact with other clever people of other cultures, and they used to transcend whatever boundaries that we see these days, and visit each other on a regular basis and visit different countries and cultures, and it was just something that happened, just as like you and I are sitting here. With a certain timing and what they call ceremony, you and I could sort of slip through some tunnel in time and appear somewhere else, maybe in the Peruvian mountains or whatever. It's not just the carvings, it's a certain amount of energy I'm sure you people have picked up that's here as well, a vibration that you can, that alters from time to time. And when you talk about earth grids and energies and that, I can relate to that. I spent a lot of time, many hours here, and at different times you pick up these different energies. And in my healing practice as a natural health therapist, I deal a lot with auric fields and energies, and I'm quite aware of changes, subtle as they may be, the importance of them, and you quite often pick up different changes here. Even as you hear, there'll be a change occur.
So, we have a classic mystery on our hands. Guarded by a half life-size image of Anubis, guardian of the underworld, is what appears to be an ancient Egyptian time capsule. It's meticulously carved and surprisingly well preserved, having been sealed up with large boulders that effectively roofed in the crypt-like space between two facing rock walls. The most protected hieroglyphs were in amazingly good condition, except for dense layers of moss and foliage. Hieroglyphs that were weather exposed where the roof had collapsed over time were extremely worn and weathered despite the deep etching, in some cases barely visible at all. As can be seen from the full drawing of the best wall, the range and complexity of the hieroglyphic writing is amazing. We counted over 250 characters, all professionally carved with symmetry and precision. The base of the rock wall even displays the lone autograph glyph of the artist, mason or priest responsible for the work. This is obviously not your usual Australian rock carvings and clearly non-Aboriginal. In fact, the most amazing example of exotic ancient writing our research team has ever seen in this country. Even to the uninitiated, this is recognisable Egyptian, with many well-known symbols ranging through ankhs, sphinxes, scarabs, birds, pyramids and popular deities, including full cartouche panels inside complete lines. There are calendric time cycle glyphs and identity glyphs. It will take an educated specialist to read the complete message phonetically, but ordinary researchers can decode odd bits and pieces and well-known words and phrases by reference to available source material. But what can be readily gleaned seems quite remarkable, with references to magic and high spiritual knowledge. There's the recurring image of the one God, and other seemingly spiritual and transcendent image sequences that could be construed to describe the classic shamanic path of enlightenment. There are also image sequences that seem to describe death and destruction. There are apparent references to the use of the name of God to attain everlasting life. Other researchers in touch with our guide, David Fitzgerald, are still working on the writing, but have so far determined it's some kind of prophecy addressed to the people of a future time who faced mass blood and destruction if they didn't follow the path of the one true God. Because of our work tracking archaeological anomalies at power places on the Earth energy grid, we were struck by stark similarities with certain glyphs we'd seen elsewhere around Australia, especially at grid point 44 in the heart of South Australia's Flinders Ranges, where we'd filmed carvings far more ancient. We'd found certain glyphs in particular that correlated with Mayan writing, Indus Valley, Easter Island and Egyptian. At the Gosford site, we noticed certain unusual designs that didn't seem Egyptian, like the ancient and universal cross in the circle design, associated with the ancient Pacific motherland in the James Churchward books. Other anomalies included strange written characters that recurred on both walls and other designs that were unfamiliar, as well as those that were hauntingly familiar. Curious to note that the guardian god Anubis was also known in Egyptian as the opener of the ways, as well as guardian of the doors to the underworld. Our guide David made the curious suggestion that the site could be a time tunnel to Peru or wherever. This perhaps seems a pretty wild notion on the surface, but shamanic tradition worldwide, and especially Aboriginal tradition, speak of travelling along the song lines, the energy pathways between power places, an ancient technique of teleportation accessible only to high, clever people who visited many ancient cultures in time gone by. The presence of glyphs depicting winged beings and celestial references also offers some implication of high spiritual states or the appearance of some sort of sky beings. So we have ourselves one juicy mystery yet to be completely solved. Now that certain Aboriginal elders have become involved, who know of special carvings at other high initiation places, we can only expect the plot to thicken.